Welcome to In the Clinch with Chuck and D. I'm Chuck.
And I'm D. And we're back.
We're back again.
Again.
Why every show we got to be a comeback show?
Because you posted that video on YouTube, the farewell show. Hey, I'm going to tell you something. If you go on YouTube and you look up In the Clinch, there's a ton of videos on there. And there's a lot of information on some of those videos, so go make sure you go check them out too, because they're hilarious.
We just wanted to share some of our humor with you.
Yes,
so
indeed.
Please be sure to check out the YouTube site.
Well, you know, and you got to understand too, we it's been a while since there was a UFC. It's been a couple weeks since the UFC card.
It has. Been a couple of weeks.
Even though, because we can actually start off the show with a recap of some previous fight cards that has happened in that time frame.
Strikeforce.
Strikeforce and the WEC before that one. The WEC card was a monstrous card.
What was the best fight?
Best fight had to be the Donald Cerrone versus Jamie Varner fight. And I'm going to tell you, because there's a lot of people out there that like Jamie Varner. Jamie Varner is a good fight, don't get me wrong. He used to be the champ at the WEC. And before Ben Henderson, I believe, is who holds that belt right now. But hey, this was a well-deserved win for Donald Cerrone, because if any of you watched the last fight between these two, Jamie Varner took the pussy move out when he acted like he got hit with the knee.
Yeah.
While he was still down.
He pulled a cost check.
He did pull a cost check. And I'm going to say this. The knee may have landed from Donald Cerrone, but I don't think it was like what Jamie Varner made it to be. And I think Varner he pussed out. He was a pussy in that first fight, and it showed in his last fight, because Donald Cerrone was on that motherfucker like white on fries. Hey, it was an ass whooping. But that whole card was a clean card. I mean, it was not one bad fight on that card. And if you get a chance to,
I missed it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna tell you something. A lot of because Versus had left DirecTV and then came back, so a lot of people didn't realize that Versus has come back on DirecTV. But if you have Versus and that fight show comes back on, you want to see some awesome MMA, go check out that fight card.
WC puts on some good fight cards.
Great fight cards.
But this past weekend, we had a pretty good fight card as well.
Yes, indeed. And surprisingly, from what production? Showtime and Strikeforce.
Showtime and Strikeforce. You want to?
Yeah, we can. The first fight on that card. I'm gonna say this. I mean, would you like to go into that fight card?
Sure.
Okay.
Why not?
Well, let's see who we're gonna choose as our first.
Right, because I'm trying to pull it up, because at the top of my mind, all I can think of was the main event.
Well, I'm gonna say this: the
girls' fight was
the Jay-Z Cavalante fight versus Josh Punk Thompson was a great fight.
That was a great fight. And Josh Thompson, to me, that dude is
he's good.
He's on his game.
He is.
I'm not a big fan of Strikeforce, only because I'm not as knowledgeable about it as the UFC, which is shame on me, because the more I watch Strikeforce, the more I appreciate the fighters, although I really can't stand the commentary. I'm sorry. But your dude with the glasses, he's...
Stephen Quattros.
Quattro. Yeah. I can't stand that
This
guy.
is Strikeforce. And
Yeah,
it gets annoying, man, I know.
He's almost... if I was a fighter, I almost hate him interviewing me after a fight as much as boxers hate interviewing with Larry Merchant. It's just that bad.
If you look, I'm going to say this, because they have Pat Miletich and they have Frank Shamrock as some of their color commentary too, which I enjoy, because you kind of see more. I like when fighters are color commentary, because you get a more feel of what MMA is really about.
I mean, I could stomach Shamrock. I can stomach him. He's okay. But you could definitely tell that there's some tension between him and
Pat Miletich?
Pat Miletich and Shamrock. You could tell that there's a little difference of opinion. They're not going to come out and curse each other out over the mic, but you could definitely tell that there's a definite difference of opinion.
Well, yeah, and you kind of, I'm sure if you ask the two who's the better of the two, there's probably a big difference in the two, but the the fight card overall was a good fight card.
Yeah.
You did Tyron Woodley was on the fight card. Galveo fought. It was over quick. It ended
knockout
quick
with Woodley.
Yeah. The Sarah Kaufman and is it her name Michelle Conan?
That was a good fight.
That was a good fight, and she probably dislocated her elbow.
And Kaufman made a serious mistake.
She did. She didn't. She shouldn't have never. She left the arm in there, knowing that she was trying to slap the triangle on. It's kind of like the
avoided the triangle.
Anderson. Well, it's kind of like how Anderson Silva caught the cheater.
Chael Sonnen?
The cheater. Chael the cheater Sonnen.
Chael the cheater.
But it was an overall good fight.
The overall fight though, Diaz and Nunes. Diaz definitely got his paybacks.
He did. He outboxed Nunes, who KJ Nunes is
a boxer.
He's a professional
He's an
boxer.
Established.
Yes, he
boxer.
is. He is.
Got outboxed, and I think that style of boxing that Diaz brings is definitely it's a matchup problem.
It's improved. It's greatly improved. His striking is. I mean, you gotta realize
rolling his shoulders.
Right. This guy is a predominantly jiu-jitsu fighter. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, they have that camp that they have is amazing. Camp. I mean, you gotta understand. I mean, these cats train with so it's Nate and Nick, Gilbert Melendez, Jake Shields, who's now in the UFC. I mean, these guys, they have a well-established camp.
Yeah, I don't see Nunes if they do go for the trifecta. I don't see Nunes beating this guy. I mean, Diaz came out at the end and said, "Look, man, I could beat this dude standing up or take him to the ground if I wanted to. It's not a big deal to me." And I think now that he's got that confidence, Nunes, I think Nunes ought to maybe just stick to boxing.
Yeah, well,
anyways.
I mean,
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
UFC 120 coming up. We got this is the big British invasion fight card that Dana likes to spring on us every once in a while. The great thing about these British invasion fight cards is that they're free. You ain't got to kick out no $55, $60 to go watch a bunch of Brits who are trying to establish
right,
themselves.
And I think that's what the whole thing is. I'm gonna tell you, in 5 years, these aren't gonna be free anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if they get some more, I mean,
but that's why
guys like John Hathaway to me would sell this. I would pay to see John Hathaway fight, but Michael Bisping to me is drastically overrated, and has had some favorable matchups. But in the elite of that weight class, I don't see Michael Bisping competing with Chael Sonnen. I don't see him competing with.
And I agree with that. Because I don't know. I just don't think he's. I just don't see it. I don't see it anymore.
Well, the first fight we're going to look at is Congo versus Brown. Everybody knows Czech Congo, and believe me when I say this, that Czech Congo has failed to fuck off. There's nobody in the top 5 that Czech Congo can beat. Right. I just it's not going to happen.
No, I agree with you. I don't see it happening. I mean, these heavyweights are getting bigger and bigger, and it is getting tougher and tougher in that heavyweight division. So it is. I'm
top 10 guy. Yes. Top 5. No. I don't see it happening.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I don't even top 10. He probably maybe 10. I mean, he's pushing up there to 10. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna go with Czech Congo on this go round. And I'm only doing that because I still have faith in Czech Congo and his fighting ability.
Well, I mean, the dude is a monster.
But I'm gonna say this. In regards to that, let's say Czech Congo wins this fight. I would love to see him up against Pat Barry for the next fight.
I would like to see that too. Pat, if you're watching, man, Czech Congo your next fight. We'd love to see that fight.
I'd love to see that happen.
So I'm going to go with Congo as well. Brown he's 10-0, but I just don't see him overcoming those physical abilities. All right. Next fight we're going to look at is
John Hathaway versus Pyle, 170. Hathaway is going to make a run at the title, hands down. I don't see this kid. I don't see him losing, but he has 3 people standing in his way at the title right now. Of course, it's GSP. Second is Koscheck, of course, but if this guy is going to get tested, it's going to happen this weekend. But if his real test is going to come up against somebody like Fitch, somebody who's going to grind out.
If he beats Pyle, I see a Fitch fight happening.
I see a Fitch fight. I mean, he's liable to take his first loss against someone like Fitch. So,
but I don't think he's going to lose to Mike Pyle. The bottom line is this: John Hathaway is a freak. He's 6'2", 170. He has a 75-inch reach.
He is. I mean,
and he's skillful with it because he kept Diego Sanchez, who is a buzzsaw in the octagon, at bay.
He caught Diego with that knee too,
and just peppered him all night. So I don't see that going any. I don't see it going any other way. I know Mike Pyle's looking for the upset on British soil, but I'm going John Hathaway.
It'll be a good upset if you do win, Pyle, but I don't see it happening.
This next fight is crazy.
It is crazy.
Dan, the Outlaw Hardy versus Carlos Natural Born Killer Condit.
I'm gonna tell you, this is a tough decision. Carlos Condit was one of them guys. I don't know if any of you, a lot of you out there, he's new to the UFC. He's been in the UFC for about a year now. But this guy fought in WEC, dominated. I want to say at one time he was a champ in WEC. I'm not for sure on that.
He was.
But this guy was a beast. He's a beast, and I mean he's an up and comer at 172. But
up and comer is kind of like a disgrace to say because
this
dude is such an established fighter. He's 25-5. But the biggest thing about Carlos Condit that I want to point out is the dude can take a beating and still. I mean, his last fight he took a beating and he still won the fight.
He still won that fight.
That said, I'm going Carlos Condit. I like Dan Hardy, but he's so one-dimensional, and Carlos Condit is just that. He's a true MMA practitioner.
That is true.
He utilizes so many different skills. He could beat you with Muay Thai, striking, jiu-jitsu. I'm going Carlos Condit.
And I'm going to hate to go against Condit on this one because you're right. Dan Hardy is a one-dimensional guy, but, his striking is what he's known for and what he's good at. But I think he has a chin. He has heart. I don't think I see him giving up. I'm picking Dan Hardy.
I'm actually going to do you one better and say if Carlos Condit wins this fight and Hathaway wins that fight, we can see John Hathaway and Carlos Condit in the next fight.
That could be.
Next fight, the headliner is Michael Bisping versus Yoshiro Akiyama.
I'm going Akiyama.
Hands down.
Hands down. I like Bisping. His ability, his skill, and everything. I just don't see. I mean, even at 185, I don't see him challenging for the belt or anything like that. But Akiyama can do that. I think Akiyama is more versatile in what he presents.
Sorry, I got to go against you on this. Height, and strike and reach is going to go to Michael Bisping, and I see Bisping winning this fight.
Be interesting to see.
All right, well that's our wrap up of UFC 120 and Strikeforce and the Strikeforce card. Until next time, I'm Chuck,
and I'm D,
and you were in the clinch.